Welcome back. This is the bake part of the Hazelgreen Access photo shoot. If you haven't seen that video, I'll link it up here. Go back and watch that video. I'm going to show you again, and it may be coming redundant, but how I do focus stacking. Also, moving away from using a polarizer, and I'll show you in this why I'm moving away. It causes some strange effects in the sky, but I will keep a polarizer in my filter kit for the simple reason when I'm doing water, I sometimes like to take the reflection off of water in my landscapes. If you like this kind of video, please leave me a comment. Also, if you haven't subscribed, please subscribe to my channel. Okay, now let's go into Lightroom. So here's the image that I'm going to work on today. And I talked about the polarizer. I fixed the effect up here, but when we look at the raw images, you'll see the difference. Now I only used 2 images on this one because I shot this image at f11. I focused here on the first one and here on the second one. So let's get out and go to our raw image. And this is the finished image. Again, we may get close, we may not. Now I expose for this area back here, and when we do our edit, we'll see that I have some detail left in here. My shadows look pretty dark, but let's go to our first image, and I have the normal developer here, and you can see it makes a big difference. Okay, you can see there's some blue going on here. So first thing I'm going to do is go up to my basic panel and look at my exposure. I'm going to try my highlights first. It looks a little funky in the sky. And then open up my shadows a little more. And then I'm going to do auto color just to see what it does. Okay, it added a little magenta. So I'm going to add green back into it, and I'm going to add a little blue to the image. Okay. Then I look at things that I don't like. Well, first of all, I don't like how bland the sky is. So what I'm going to do is go to my masking tool, and it has sky right here in the middle. So I'm going to tap on it. It's going to select. Now I didn't select this area over here. And again, I'm going to zoom in over there. You can see it's selected all the way, but it left some areas out here. So what I'm going to do is, and I'm going to click on this mask, and I'm going to add. I'm adding to the mask. I'm going to use a brush, and I'm just going to make a big brush and click in here, and I'm being pretty, what do I want to say? I'm not being real precise on where I put the mask. Okay, now the other thing I don't like, and I do this right away, is I'm going to hold down my Option key, intersect this mask with a linear graduate, and I usually pull down something to that effect, and I'm going to pull this and up a little bit, maybe tilt it a little bit, and it gives me a more subtle transition. Okay, now this is what I do to the sky. I'm going to add some blue, quite a bit, and I'm going to darken the exposure, and I'm going to play with my dehaze a little bit. Dehaze you want to go real easy with. Okay. So let's look at what that did. I'm going to turn this off. Off. On. Off. And it looks pretty natural. Off. On. Now, this is what I was talking about, a polarizer. If I would have had nothing but blue skies, you get some areas that's real dark and some areas that's not. So from now on, if I show a lot of sky and I don't take the reflection out of the water, I'm going to remove my polarizer, but I'm going to add another mask to this to fix this light area on this side. So I'm going to use a linear graduate. I'm going to pull it over, and I'm going to pull this back just a little bit. And now I'm going to, it needs a little more blue on that side. It needs to be darkened on that side. And I'm just doing this by eye. I'm not, I don't use any numbers or anything like that. Okay, so I like that. It looks a little more natural. So now what do we do? Okay, let me remove the mask, and we're going to go down here, let me make this a little larger. I've already corrected this one. It doesn't look quite like this one, but I need to carry this over to this image. So I'm going to click on the second image, and then you get this. Synchronize settings. Check all. And sometimes the mask isn't clicked on, so you want to make sure those masks are highlighted, and use sync. And while it's doing that, again, the reason I'm getting away from the polarizer is because of the strange sky, especially on wide angle lenses. It causes this shift. Okay, now let's take those two into Photoshop. So I'm going to click on number 1 and number 2, right click, edit in, and open up as layers in Photoshop. Okay, so here we are in Photoshop, and let me zoom in to the foreground here. This is nice and focused. If I shut this layer off, you can see it's not in focus, in focus. Now if I go back to this area, that one's out of focus, that one's in focus, out of focus, in focus. And you can see there's a little movement between the two. So the first thing I do is highlight both images by hitting the shift key. I've got them both highlighted. Then I come up to my edit, and this will be different on a PC. I'm working on a Mac, and I go to auto align layers. I don't click anything here, and I say OK. Okay, you can see the white line. That's the movement in the focus breathing. But what I didn't do is make an image just for this area back here and the moving water. So I'm going to look at both images. I like that one better because it's sharper. So I'm going to click on that layer, duplicate layer, and I'm going to call this movement. Okay, now I think it's aligned, but I'm going to check it. Yeah, they're aligned. Okay, so I'm going to highlight all 3 images now. Shift click. I'm going to, let me zoom back out, fit screen. Okay, so I have all 3 images highlighted. I'm going to go back into edit. I'm going to go to auto blend, and I'm going to do seamless tones and content aware fill, and I'm going to say OK. And again, this may take a while depending on your computer power, how powerful your computer is. Okay, so we have a merge layer up here, and let me look at it. It looks really pretty good. It looks like we got focus in the background and focus in the foreground. We got a little fuzziness here on the corner, and we got strange going on here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to delete 2 layers. I'm going to keep the movement layer. So let me delete layers. Okay, so masks, option, and now I got a black mask. Now I'm going to go to a white brush, make a nice big brush. I'm hitting my bracket key, and I'm erasing. See how it's taking care of some of the bubbles? That's all I'm using. Now I may have a little movement up here too. I don't see any in this area. So I think I'm happy with that. So let me go back to my fit to screen. Okay, so now I'm going to click both layers, and I'm going to flatten these layers. So I can tell that's the one I just brought in because it's a Photoshop document. You can see by this PSD here. This is my raw digital negative, and this is the raw image. Now, just to make it neat, what I'm going to do is click the Photoshop document, and then click these other 2, right click, and I stack them into a group. Now, just to make things clean, I'm going to get rid of that photo. Okay, so here's our photo. I'm going to get a little more real estate on my laptop here. Close this side and make this even smaller. Okay, now I'm going to look at things. Usually I have my global adjustments. A global adjustments is everything. And now I'm going to do some local adjustments. The first thing I see is I don't like the color of my sky. Nikon always tends to be a little cyan. So in the HLS, I'm going to take my aqua to blue, and then I'm going to take my blues to blue. More like that. And I'm going to brighten up my reds, brighten up my oranges, and brighten up my yellows. And so what I'm doing here is I'm selecting things I want to do to certain colors. So let's do a before, after, before, after. Really look at the sky. Look at the difference from cyan to blue. Okay, then I'm going to do some local adjustments. So I'm going to use my radial graduate, and I'm going to pull one down in this area. I'm going to tilt it and make it a little wider and maybe a little longer. Okay, where the inner circle is, this one is where most of the effect will happen. I'm going to brighten it up even more. Good. And I could go back to that filter, right click on it, duplicate and invert. Now the outside is being used. So what I'll do is darken the outside a little bit. Okay, now these rocks here, I want to bring them out individually. And you could go in and let's try this. Let's do another mask, and we're going to use a gosh, I don't know what radial. Let's use another radial. I'm going to draw it on this, and I want to bring out these rocks here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down my option key. I'm going to invert, and let's use invert, and I'm going to use color range. And I'm going to click on this gray rock right here. Okay, I like what it's done, but I'm going to refine it a little more by moving this slider. I want less. There we go. Now, let's see, I go extreme. Yeah, see, it's going to have an effect on those rocks. So I'm going to brighten those rocks up a little more and dehaze maybe. And they're gray, so I'm not going to add any saturation. Maybe a little sharpness, a little texture, a little clarity. In fact, I forgot to do that with this mask, but you can always go back. And I'm going to give that a little texture, a little clarity. Good. Now let's do a vignette. So I'm going to come down to effects. -14 is where I usually start, and I turn off the feather. Then I'm going to move it down a little bit, and then roundness, about like that. Now I'm going to feather it. Okay. Now I don't like how dark my sky got, so what I'm going to do is go back to my this inverted filter, and what I may do is, yeah, slide it up like that and pull it longer. Maybe something like that. Now I'm going to subtract from this filter. Subtract, I'm going to use brush, because I want to lighten this area just a little bit. Nice big brush, and take that out of there. This area. Good. Now I want to lighten this area up a little bit, so I'm going to create another mask, and you can get a lot of masks. I really like masks. So add a mask, radial. I'm going to put one here in this corner, and I'm going to brighten this corner a little bit and open the shadows a little bit. Okay, so let's see how far we've come. Before, after, and that's after we brought it out of Lightroom, or I'm sorry, Photoshop. Before, after. So that's how I would do a focus stacking, and then come back and do some local adjustments. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed this, please subscribe. Leave comments. I love hearing the comments. I'll try to get back to you. If you have any questions, also leave those. And again, come back next week and I should have another video. Bye.